The Girl, a Norcom Union story by Nicholas K. I hear the footsteps before I see him, heavy, deliberate, each one echoing in the empty space like a countdown to something terrible. My heart pounds in my chest, the noise drowning out the whispers and whimpers of the others huddled around me. We're all crammed into this makeshift kennel, the stench of sweat and fear thick in the air, pressing down on me like a suffocating blanket. The door opens with a metallic scrape, and the room falls silent. The scaver with the broken voice steps in, his rifle slung over his shoulder, his eyes cold and empty. His voice, when he speaks, grates like a malfunctioning speaker, distorted and inhuman, making my skin crawl. He moves with a purpose that makes my stomach churn. I don't know what's coming, but I can feel it. A low, throbbing dread that settles in my bones, freezing me in place. He doesn't say a word. He just starts pulling people out, one by one, like they're nothing. A man who was next to me is first, his protests cut short by the barrel of the rifle. The shot echoes, deafening, and the man crumples to the ground. Blood pools around him, a stark contrast against the filthy floor. I squeeze my eyes shut, but I can't block out the sounds. The pleading, the crying, the shots that follow one after another in a rhythm of death. My body is trembling, and I'm biting down on my lips so hard I taste blood. I can't think, can't breathe, can't move. I'm trapped in this nightmare, and there's no waking up. It's over in minutes, but it feels like hours. When I open my eyes again, the room is still and silent. The scaver stands over the bodies, his rifle hanging loosely at his side, his eyes scanning the room, searching for anyone left alive. His gaze lands on me, and for a moment, I think it's over. But he doesn't shoot. Instead, he grabs me, his grip like iron, and shoves me into the suitcase. It's too small, too tight, and I'm folded into it like I'm not even a person anymore. The lid snaps shut, plunging me into darkness. The air is stale, suffocating, and every breath feels like it's being squeezed out of me. I'm trapped in this tiny space, my body contorted painfully, and all I can do is wait. Wait for whatever comes next. Wait for the end. Time loses meaning in the dark. There's no way to tell how long I'm in there, no way to measure the moments that stretch and twist into something unbearable. When the suitcase is finally opened, harsh light floods in, blinding me. Rough hands yank me out, and I'm thrown to the ground, my limbs too stiff and numb to break my fall. The voices around me are sharp, harsh, but I can't make sense of them. My head spins, my vision swimming with tears. The world is a blur of noise and chaos, and I'm at the center of it, helpless and terrified. They drag me through the ruins, and every step is a jolt of pain. My body is screaming at me, but I can't stop moving. The air is thick with the smell of rust and decay, the scent of old blood mixing with the musty odor of rotting wood and damp concrete. I can barely breathe, each inhalation scraping my throat like sandpaper. My heart is pounding, the fear twisting my stomach into knots. I can't think, can't process anything beyond the immediate sensation of terror. We stop, and they shove me down to the floor, my knees hitting the concrete hard. The cold seeps into my bones, the rough texture scraping against my skin. I try to curl into myself, to make myself small and invisible, but they're still laughing, still talking about me like I'm not even there. Then something changes. The air shifts, growing colder, heavier. The scaver's laughter falters, and I feel it, like a prickling at the back of my neck, a presence in the shadows. I glance up, squinting against the light, and I see it, a shadow moving through the dark, silent and deadly. My breath catches in my throat, my heart stopping for a split second. It's watching, waiting, stalking them like prey. The scavers don't notice, they're too focused on me, too caught up in their twisted game. But I can feel it, and the fear inside me sharpen into something more immediate, more primal. It's not here to save me. It's a monster, hunting monsters, and I'm caught in the middle. One of the scavers crumples, a sharp, wet sound breaking the silence. The others freeze, their laughter dying in their throats. They look around confused, and then another drops, a choked gasp escaping before he hits the ground. Panic spreads through them like wildfire, their bravado crumbling as they realize they're being hunted. The world explodes into chaos. The scavers shout, firing their weapons blindly into the dark, but there's nothing to hit. It's too fast, too elusive, a ghost in the shadows. I can't see what's happening, only hear the sickening thuds of bodies hitting the ground, the sharp cracks of bone breaking, the wet sounds of flesh being torn apart. I'm shaking, my hands pressed over my ears, but I can't block out the noise, can't shut out the horror unfolding around me. My vision blurs, my mind reeling, and I can barely breathe through the panic constricting my chest. I'm going to die, it's going to kill them all, and then it's going to turn on me. The silence that follows is worse than the noise. It's thick, oppressive, and I'm too terrified to move, too terrified to even breathe. I squeeze my eyes but nothing happens. The air is heavy with the scent of blood, metallic and sharp, mingling with the rot of the building. I can hear my heartbeat, loud in my ears, each thump a reminder that I'm still alive. It's there, standing over me, and I can feel its eyes on me, though I can't bring myself to look up. I'm too scared of what I'll see, too scared of what it might do. It's the monster in the dark, and I'm the last one left, but it doesn't move, doesn't speak. The silence stretches on, unbearable, and then it's gone, disappearing back into the shadows as quickly as it appeared. I'm left alone, surrounded by the bodies of the scavers, my mind spinning with fear and confusion. I pull myself up, my body aching, and stumble through the remains of the camp, too afraid to stay, too afraid of what might come next. My legs are weak, trembling with every step, but I keep moving, driven by the instinct to survive. The darkness presses in, and I can't shake the feeling that it's still watching, still out there, lurking in the shadows, waiting. Time blurs as I move through the ruins, my mind still reeling from what just happened. I don't know where I'm going, don't know what I'll find, but I have to keep moving. The air is cold, the wind biting at my skin, and every sound makes me jump, my nerves frayed to the breaking point. I find a place to hide, a broom closet in the entryway of an abandoned apartment building. I collapse inside, pulling the door shut behind me, and curl up in the corner, my back pressed against the wall. The darkness is suffocating, but it's better than being out there, exposed and vulnerable. My breathing is ragged, each breath a struggle against the tightness in my chest. I don't know how much time passes. Minutes? Hours? The world outside is a cacophony of distant noises, metal creaking, wind howling through broken windows, the occasional shout or scream that echoes through the empty halls. I try to block it out, to focus on staying quiet, staying hidden. Then the noise changes. It's closer now, louder. Footsteps, heavy and deliberate, moving through the building. My heart races, pounding against my ribs, and I press myself further into the corner, trying to make myself as small as possible. The footsteps stop outside the door, and I hold my breath, terrified that it's found me. But the door doesn't open. The footsteps move away, fading into the distance, and I exhale slowly, the tension draining from my body. I'm safe for now, but I can still hear it, somewhere in the building, moving through the halls, searching. The sounds of a struggle reach me, muffled by the walls, but clear enough to send a jolt of fear through me. It's found them, the scavers, and it's not alone. I can hear the shouts, the curses, the wet sounds of violence, and I know that it's killing them. One by one, it's taking them down, just like it did before. I squeeze my eyes shut, trying to block out the noise, but it's too loud, too close. The walls feel like they're closing in on me, the air thick and stifling. I can't stop trembling, can't stop the tears that spill down my cheeks. My breath is shallow, panicked, each inhale catching in my throat as I try to stay silent. Try to make myself disappear. The sounds of the fight die down, replaced by heavy breathing, footsteps dragging across the floor. I can't tell if it's over, can't tell who's won, but I know that if it finds me, I won't survive. My heart races, pounding against my chest, my mind spinning with fear and dread. The door creaks open, the noise jarring in the silence. I flinch, my body tensing, but I can't move, can't make a sound. I'm frozen, my back pressed against the wall as it steps inside. The air feels colder, the darkness thicker as it looms over me, blocking out the light from the hallway. It's him. I can tell by the way he moves, the way he seems to blend into the shadows like he belongs there. He's covered in blood, some of it his, most of it not. His breathing is labored, his movements slow and deliberate. But there's something different about him now. something that wasn't there before. He's not just a monster, not just a machine. He's something else, something I can't quite understand, but I can't look away. His eyes, what little I can see of them through the mask, are sharp, calculating, but there's something behind them, something that almost looks like concern. I don't know what to say, don't know if I should say anything. My mouth is dry, my throat tight, and I can't find the words even if I wanted to. But he doesn't seem to expect me to speak. He just watches me, his gaze intense and unreadable. After what feels like an eternity, he steps back, his hand reaching out to me. I hesitate, my body still trembling with fear, but something in his stance, in the way he holds himself, makes me take his hand. His grip is strong, steady, and for a moment, I almost feel safe. He pulls me to my feet, his movements careful, like he's afraid he might hurt me. I can barely stand, my legs weak and shaky, but he doesn't let go. He guides me out of the closet, into the dimly lit hallway, and I can see the bodies now. Scavers lying in pools of their own blood, their faces twisted in pain and fear. He's killed them all, and the realization sends a shiver down my spine. But he doesn't stop, doesn't give me a chance to process what's happened. He keeps moving, leading me through the building, his steps sure and confident. I follow, my mind numb, my body moving on autopilot. I don't know where we're going, don't know what's going to happen, but I don't have a choice. I'm too tired, too scared to do anything else. We climb the stairs, the sound of our footsteps echoing in the empty stairwell. My breath comes in ragged gasps, my muscles burning with each step, but he doesn't slow down. He's focused, determined, like he knows exactly what he needs to do. I can barely keep up, my vision swimming with exhaustion, but he doesn't let go of my hand, doesn't leave me behind. We reach the top of the stairs, and he pauses, listening. I can hear it too, the faint hum of something mechanical, something not quite right. He gestures for me to stay put, his grip tightening on my hand for just a moment before he lets go, and then he's gone, slipping through the door like a shadow. I'm left alone, the darkness pressing in on me, the cold seeping into my bones. I wait, my heart pounding in my ears, every sound amplified by the silence. I don't know how long I stand there, my body tense, my mind racing with 1,000 possibilities. The silence is broken by the sound of metal grinding against metal, followed by a low, mechanical whirring. My breath catches in my throat as I peek around the corner, my eyes widening as I see the scaver, his face a mask of twisted anger, his rifle raised, ready to fire. But he's not aiming at me. The man who's been protecting me, the man who's killed for me, they face each other, a tension in the air that makes my skin prickle. I can see the exhaustion in his stance, the way his shoulders slump, but he doesn't back down. Fight, ready to kill, even if it means his own death. The scaver moves first, his rifle cracking with a deafening shot. I flinch, my heart stopping for a moment, but the bullet misses, ricocheting off the wall. He's too fast, too precise, closing the distance between them with a speed that takes my breath away. They collide, the force of the impact sending them both crashing to the ground. It's a brutal fight, each blow landing with a sickening thud, each movement calculated, deadly. I can't look away, can't move, my body frozen with fear and adrenaline. I watch as he takes hit after hit, blood splattering across the floor, but he doesn't stop, doesn't falter. He's fighting with everything he has, and I realize that he's not just fighting for himself, he's fighting for me. The scaver is relentless, his rage fueling his attacks, but he's no match for him. I can see it now, the precision, the control, the way he moves like a predator, every strike deliberate and deadly. He's winning, but it's costing him. I can see the strain in his movements, the pain etched into his features, and I know he can't keep this up much longer. I have to do something. I can't just stand here and watch him die. My hands are trembling, my breath coming in short, shallow gasps, but I force myself to move, to act. I grab the knife that's been strapped to my thigh, the cold metal heavy in my hand, and I move toward them, my steps slow and deliberate. The scaver is focused on him, his back turned to me, and I know this is my only chance. My heart is racing, my mind screaming at me to stop, but I can't. I have to do this. I have to save him. I raise the knife, my hands shaking, and drive it into the scaver's neck with all the strength I have left. He stiffens, a choked gasp escaping him, and then he's falling, crumpling to the ground like a puppet with its strings cut. The knife slips from my grasp, clattering to the floor, and I stand there, frozen, my mind struggling to catch up with what I've just done. He's on his feet, moving toward me, and I flinch, instinctively backing away. His movements are slower now, less sure. I can see the way he favors one side, how his shoulders slump just a little more than before. There's blood seeping through the cracks in his armor, dark and wet, and I realize he's hurt, badly. He reaches out, his hand trembling slightly, and I take it, feeling the strength in his grip despite the weakness I can sense in him. He pulls me with him, guiding me out of the stairwell and onto the rooftop. The cold wind hits me like a wall, harsh and biting, but I barely feel it. My mind is spinning, trying to process everything that's happened, everything that's happening now. The rooftop is desolate, the sky above us a sickly grey. The medevac pod waits at the edge, its lights blinking in the gloom. He leads me to it, but something feels wrong. This isn't how it's supposed to end. He's hurt, bleeding, and I know he needs this more than I do. He opens the pod and I hesitate, my heart. He's trying to strap me in, his hands steady but slow, like every movement is costing him. I can't shake the feeling that something is off, that he shouldn't be doing this for me. As he's securing the straps, I look at him, really look at him, trying to see past the mask, past the armor. My voice, when it comes, is weak, barely a whisper. "Do you have a name?" He freezes, his hands pausing mid-motion. He looks at me, and there's something in his eyes, confusion, maybe even a flicker of something deeper, something almost like pain. It's as if the question has caught him off guard, something he hasn't had to think about in a long time. For a moment, I think he's going to say something, but he doesn't. Instead, he reaches into a pocket and pulls out a small, worn card. He stares at it, hesitating, before slowly handing it to me. I take it, my fingers brushing against his gloved hand. It's a V card, with a serial number and contact info, no name. I glance back at him, my heart skipping a beat as I realize he doesn't have a name, at least not one he can give me. He's just a number, just a tool, just him. He steps back, moving toward the control panel on the side of the pod. He hesitates, glancing back at me, then begins manually activating the medevac pod's return sequence. I watch as he inputs something, tricking the pod with his own biometric data, overriding the standard protocol. The realization dawns on me, cold and sharp. I look around and see it. There's only one seat in the pod. It's not meant for both of us. It's meant for him. My heart pounds in my ears and panic flares in my chest. "No, wait!" I start to say, but the hatch is already closing. I reach out for him, my fingers brushing the edge of the door, but it's too late. The door seals with a final, echoing click, and I'm locked inside. The pod lifts off into the sky, and I'm thrown back against the seat as the harness locks me in place. I thrash against it, trying to force the hatch open, trying to escape. But the straps tighten, pinning my arms down. The pod is filled with flashing lights, the noise of servo motors and machinery overwhelming, and I can't breathe, can't think. Visions flash before my eyes, memories of the testing, the injections, the cold, clinical procedures. I'm trapped again, just like I was before, and the terror claws at my throat, threatening to choke me. My mind reels, trying to make sense of what's happening, but all I can think is that I'm not safe. I've never been safe. The pod climbs higher, and I'm thrown back against the seat as the harness locks me in place. I thrash against it, trying to force the hatch open, trying to escape, but the straps tighten, pinning my arms down. The pod is filled with flashing lights, the noise of servo motors and machinery overwhelming, and I can't breathe, can't think. Visions flash before my eyes, memories of the testing, the injections, the cold, clinical procedures. I'm trapped again, just like I was before, and the terror claws at my throat, threatening to choke me. My mind reels, trying to make sense of what's happening, but all I can think is that I'm not safe. I've never been safe. The pod ascends, and through the small window I can see him. FN 528. He's on his knees now, collapsing onto the rooftop. His body trembles with effort as he crawls toward a wall, leaning against it for support. I see him pull out his phone, his fingers trembling as he tries to use it. I see as the screen fails to light. He drops the phone and tilts his head back to look up at me. He pulls his mask off and it falls from his hands. Our eyes meet. I can see the exhaustion, the pain in his eyes, but there's also something else. Something that holds me, even as the pod continues to rise. But then, movement catches my eye. Jiang Jun steps into view, his figure emerging from the shadows of the stairwell. Panic surges through me as I watch him approach FN 528. I try to scream, to reach out, but the harness holds me down, and the pod's walls close in around me. I'm powerless, helpless as they fade from view. The last thing I see is FN 528, still looking up at me from his seated position, his face a mask of pain and resignation, and then everything goes black. The world slips away, leaving me in cold, sterile darkness. The hum of the pod the only sound as it carries me away.